Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Despite of Kenya hiring a 500 million lobby team in Washington ahead of the United Nations General Assembly at Haiti to smoothen things for President William Ruto's agenda, he was still deserted. And from this in-depth analysis will demonstrate to you how African presidents walked out of President Ruto's pet presentation as he struggles to present the African and pro-Kenyan agenda in the US. And the Washington mission is coming up as a failed mission. You need to get much into that in this podcast. But before we get into that, guys, I came back to Egerton, Nakuru. And here, I'm also again for the second mission here. Calling us to rally behind this lady. She is Mary Yabura. Mary used to work in Saudi Arabia, and one day the boss turned very hostile and pushed her off from third floor. She fell down and broke her spinal cord. This changed her life completely, was rushed back in the country here in Kenya, and with little support, and the boss in the Saudi Arabia did not support her. So when she came back home, she's been stranded with the children. And remember, because the husband saw the way she came back while she could not walk and she was in the wheelchair, the husband disowned her, the father of the children. So she's been forced to depend on support from well-wishers. And when her case was brought to us, guys, I want to tell you something. I checked and actually realized that she's been a very strong support for this channel. Despite of her condition, really, she's been reaching out whenever we call out, and she's amongst one of us. Ladies and gentlemen, what is needed and why I'm rallying us to rally behind Mary is for her to get at least a house. As we talk now, she's stranded because she stays in a residential place that now is failed to pay for the couple of months and is being given days to be kicked out, currently stranded. We are here to make sure that in the next 1 week, Mary is going to have a big house that will accommodate her and the children. And because she's not in a wheelchair, we are looking at how she can get bit of support. We are camping here, and I told the team and the Mary that kuna shamba alikuwa amepewa, alikuwa amenunua akiwa huko, na hiyo shamba ndio tunataka tuende tumjengee. We are doing the foundation tomorrow, and I believe we have done this before. We are back yet here to support Mary at least apate nyumba. Maybe let's get a soundbite from her.
Yabura. One first born yakwa etagwo Yabura, niwe wetagwo Zieta. One Danieli Njoroge niwe second born, na he mũtari kuo etagwo Brighton Kuria kwa mathai rũu. Tafadhali mũndeithie gwaka na Ngai nĩakũmũrathima. Yes, now.
That is why we are here. And may God bless us as we start this journey yet again, so that we can support her. She's very young, na watoto watatu, and really in need of a house. At least apate mahali atakaa. Hata kama atatafuta venye, hata kama maisha itakuwa ngumu in terms of what she gets to eat, but at least she has a place called home, anaweza lay the head, and the family can get a place to stay. And may God bless us as we partake of this. Kindly, we are starting kuchimba na kuanza kujenga tomorrow. what God brings your way, even if you choose to spare a meal or so to support this mission, we will be blessed as a team. Let's get to this. First, I want us to look at this photo. And there's been a video of the Kenyan delegation walking from their consulate in New York to where the event is happening, to the UN headquarters there. And this photo has been trending in this country. It is a big lesson to the leaders here. Ironically, in the US and that New York, things are working. It's very safe. I've seen the way wanatembea. It's just like Nairobi Street. It's not like, I'm not seeing heavy security presence there. Unlike in the country here, where the political class is insecure because they have projected themselves as the only people, as the only hope to help the population. If the president walks around dishing money all through, can he afford to walk within the Nairobi city? You know? But where systems work, it doesn't matter. It's very ironical because we have stolen so much that we attract more enemies that we cannot even be safe. In Nairobi, for the president to kutoka KICC, just from the KICC to Nairobi University, do you know there will be a total standstill in the city for the president to make that move? And in fact, it's more luxurious for us, ironically, to cruise through big machines so that we show raw power to the masses. But the lesson from this is where systems work, things just flow. And in fact, a friend was telling me from the US that huku Kevin, huku US, wale wenye wako na pesa, hata ndio wanaenda kwa gari, wanaenda na baiskeli. Ruto, President Ruto attended the United Nations General Assembly at Haiti with 4 big objectives. And out of these 4, in this podcast, I'll explain to you how things turned out. Number 1, he was to take that opportunity to project to world leaders the projects, his pet projects in the country, SHA and affordable housing, and how other leaders are supposed to emulate it. He was also on Haiti multi-security mission to tell the country, to tell the world how Kenya intervention in Haiti seemed to have changed things. And not far from it is the issue of the carbon credits. And this is what is normally packaged in climate financing and United Nations Security Council. When I listen and I've been following this from the New York, I found President a Lone Ranger. He's speaking to himself. And the continent is not, I'm not feeling the echo of the African continent behind the ban that is allegedly supposed to speak about the continent. And that is what I want to demonstrate to you here. But first, look at this. Kenya hired our lobby in Washington at a Kenyan cost of around 500 million. And this lobby was supposed to this organization was supposed to smoothen things for the Kenyan delegation there. And what Sadat is giving some very interesting review I want us to look at here. With the US showing the little appetite for the Kenyan-led mission in Haiti and no interest in Ruto's carbon credits, the United Nations UNGA at Haiti is not turning out to be what the Kenyan president had hoped for. The Kenyan delegation had hoped that the 500 million they had paid to their lobbyists in Washington will smoothen out the rough edges of the Trump administration. But word is that there has been little movement from the American side. This has left the Kenyan president frustrated. He was visibly upset, lashing out at the US for giving mission unreliable vehicles and equipment failed to pay for the mission as they had promised, leading to setback of the mission. A high-level forum on the healthcare where Kenya was hoping to showcase its share as a success was also not attended by the over 50 heads of state as Nairobi had stated it would. And with just a few foreign leaders, 85% of those who attended the forum were Kenyans who had traveled with the head of state to New York. Some of those Kenyans included Nairobi Governor Joho Kabogo and Mudavadi. And I'm going to demonstrate those two. Let's look at these two forums. There was this forum Kenya held, a high-level roundtable meeting of the global champions on affordable housing, New York. Kenya was planning to use this platform, this dialogue session, to showcase affordable housing to the world leaders. This event was largely boycotted by world leaders and African leaders, financial institutions, and other leaders, except out of the 54 African presidents, only two, John Mahama of Ghana and Duma Gideon Boko, the president of Botswana. And so there were only 4 speakers, and this event only lasted for 27 minutes. The president spoke for 13 minutes. Then the 2 presidents spoke for some around 8 or so minutes. Then the coordinator, the person who was in charge, representative who was represented in the Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, spoke for the rest 7 minutes, and the story ended there. This was the meeting where Kenya was planning to showcase the affordable housing and even talk about the Singapore dream. Even the representative from Singapore who was expected in that session did not attend. And that is why the echoes of isolation and being deserted is coming from New York. And of course, I realized that the president continued with the messaging about affordable housing. And in this session, I want you to compare 2 things. Compare the President William Ruto's pitch on affordable housing. Then I would also want you to listen to Gideon Boko, the president on Botswana, on his version of affordable housing. Then let's make comparison and understand why then the world leaders did not tag into all this. This is the president.
Kenya's affordable housing program is driven by the conviction that every citizen deserves the dignity of a decent home. Our ambition is to build 200,000 affordable houses each year, not just as shelter, but as engines of job creation, urban renewal, and equity. Today, nearly 170,000 units are under construction, as you have seen, creating 320,000 jobs, and this number will double to 650 before the end of the year. Very well ahead of our program. We have also enacted enabling legislation, notably the Affordable Housing Act of 2024, which established the Affordable Housing Fund. Sat with President Mahama, he asked me, how are you funding? This is through the housing levy, matched by employers. We are mobilizing resources now, transforming informal settlements into vibrant, dignified communities. At the same time, we have expanded access to finance. The Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company provides concessional fixed-rate mortgages to thousands of low and middle-income families, making ownership a reality for many who were once excluded.
Of course, he's still talking about the issue of housing, the issue of the jobs. He's still talking about the fact, he's still bragging that we are financing it, that we are locally financing it from our own resources. So you will understand his speech is still just whatever. The same statements normally say in Nairobi and the rallies is what was echoed there. And he's trying to tell the world leaders to emulate it. But a more interesting perspective is from the Botswana. And I want you to listen because there is something he's saying there.
That if any employee has to spend more than 40% of their earnings, their salary, paying rent, then that employee is but a working destitute. And so we have to provide this housing within easy access of where employment opportunities are available. Anything short of that would amount to mere rhetoric or platitudes. We have inaugurated a program we call Bunno Affordable Housing, Bunno meaning shelter or residence or a home. We aim to build 100,000 houses within the next 3 years in Botswana. And so I'm happy to join President Ruto, President Mahama, and other presidents across the breadth and dimensions of the African continent who will respond with speed and dispatch to this challenge of providing decent housing, decent shelter to our people. We have engaged with local banks. We have currently an advanced conversation with 3 financial institutions in Botswana. They have asked for a number of things as our contribution to the project. They ask for land to be availed. Government has committed fully to the provision of land. They have asked for other concessions in relation to the building materials, some of which they have to import, that government go easy on any import duties. The reason we also have to play our part as government is first to cement this partnership between government and the private sector, but also to ensure that we cap the price of each housing unit within ranges of easy affordability for our people. We have set a living wage that should make it somewhat easier.
Number one, they have 61 constituencies. So yao imekuwa divided into constituencies. They're building 1,000 houses per constituency. And you look at the model of how they are mobilizing resources. Unlike Kenya, where we are raiding people's payslip and collecting money from people and build houses, then sell, there, the Gideon Boko is saying that he's gotten a partnership with the banks. So the process is fully, or that the project is fully private sector owned. Kwamba, the banks, government only makes concessions in terms of VAT, in terms of taxes on the building materials, in terms of probably amenities that are supposed to be the other auxiliary services that are needed in those areas, so that the areas where banks can invest. People are even given their own land, then the government provides the other services, the road network and electricity, and then the banks will come and build, and the whole thing is private sector led. This is what we've been saying from Nairobi, that the project is good, the houses are good, but the red line is the fact that resource mobilization is done locally, and the principal contributor is not the principal beneficiary of that. Now, challenge meaning, can I give you a challenge? Just go to the president's Facebook page. You are going to get details of this meeting, and you will realize no photos were taken in that meeting. Hakuna picha utapata. Official photos from this session was poorly attended. And because of that, no photos were actually taken in this. You yeah, I can give you this challenge. Just check and you'll realize that not so much happened. So that was the first instant to show you how the president was disheartened. I want us to look at in a separate forum. This happened a day before yesterday. And in this forum, the president was put to task to explain something about health financing. And of course, interestingly, the session was on social contract. Of course, social connection with the people when you are passing policies. And you'll get to listen to the pitch. You'll understand something about this session.
Previously, more than a decade as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, working in a number of portfolios in the government cabinet, and over a decade as a Member of Parliament. Your Excellency, can I ask you to share with us why social participation to drive equity and sustainable development is a priority for Kenya, and tell us about the journey so far?
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, our Constitution guarantees the right to the highest attainable standard of health on one hand, and the right of citizens to participate in governance. Both are constitutional imperatives. The Public Finance Management Act embeds citizen input in budget making, including in health, while in the Health Act outlines mechanisms for community engagement in service delivery. We are also aligning policy with action. We recently enacted 4 transformative laws to drive universal health coverage reforms. And why I say we had to change the whole architecture around law to be able to make health much more responsive.
It is very ironical for the president to credit Shah on the social connection, while most of his projects, he suffered the worst social contact breakdown that even led to the Gen Z protest. The Gen Z protest came out because of the breakdown of the social contract. So I don't think he actually stands a good ground to explain, of course, to take credit for the issues that happened about Shah. The other interesting one is the calls for United Nations Security Council reforms. I agree, and I really relate with the president's position that the African continent should not lack a permanent seat in the National Security Council, while it is true that it is us who send our troops for some of those security missions. We bear the brunt of some of those chain disruptions due to world. I remember when there was the Russia and Ukraine war, Kenya suffered a lot on the issue of some grains. Of course, there was food shortage this side because there were a lot of grain that were being imported from those countries, and it affects disruptions even in oil and other services or other commodities that are needed in the continent. But then that cannot be, and the president was talking about this, was trying to raise this, talking about it and saying Kenya needs to push. Immediately after Trump spoke and did not push this agenda. And when Trump spoke, the feeling of the expectation was that he was going to push it, because this is why Kenya was even paying. This is what Kenya was even lobbying, and I wonder why we even pay to lobby for that. Like, it's not an entirely Kenyan interest, because if a permanent seat is given, it's not that seat is designated for Kenya. That seat is designated for the continent. But then you would understand Ruto was really insisting on the fact that they're trying to push it, but he's the only one talking about it.
You cannot claim to be the United Nations while disregarding the voice of 54 nations. It is not possible. Africa is no longer willing to wait on the margins of global governance while decisions about peace, security, and development are made without our understanding, without our perspectives, and without our voice. Africa's exclusion is not only unacceptable, unfair, and grossly unjust, it also undermines the very credibility of the United Nations, this organization. Africa dominates most of the Security Council agenda, provides some of the largest contingents of UN peacekeeping forces, and bears the heaviest costs of instability. Yet we remain the only continent without a permanent seat at the main table, where decisions about our destiny are made. We have insisted that the reform of the UN is no longer about if, but it is when, and that when is now. Because unless and until we reform the UN, it will continue to remain undemocratic, unrepresentative, and not fit for purpose.
Yes, he is the only one that is actually talking about that issue of United Nations of permanent seat, and the delegation, or rather the word is that Washington is not pushing it as that was expected, because that was a key take from that. Now, and of course, he's talking about the non-responsiveness of the UN of course, non-responsiveness of the UN, while the audience is actually pretty silent as he talks about that. Now, I want to talk about something here, and this is interesting. And this is the issue of Haiti. We understand the reports, even as late as last week, Kenya had lost one of its soldiers there. And the last month, there were reports of resurgence of the gangs in the streets. There have been some strides that have been made. But I listened to William Ruto pitch in Haiti, and he's trying to project like the same things he normally does here. The way he does here, that, you know, the houses, when you listen to the way he's explaining about the house, about the Shah, he say like this has been a great success. He projected Haiti mission like we have succeeded.
As the lead nation, allow me to briefly share our experiences, the successes and the challenges, as both a cautionary tale and a living lesson about the strengths and weaknesses of the current global security governance architecture. For far too long, the people of Haiti called out to the world. Too often, their pleas were met with silence, hesitation, or half measures. Haiti became a tragic reminder of what happens when the international community looks away, prevaricates, or offers half-hearted support. When Kenya responded to the quest for the Haitian authorities, it was in the belief that we were joining a genuinely multinational effort. We welcomed and fully embraced Resolution 2699, by which the United Nations Security Council authorized the MSS with Kenya as the lead nation. Drawing on our decades of peace support operations, we stepped forward, stepped up, and deployed our officers to confront the rampant menace of gang violence in Port-au-Prince and its environs. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, the mission has operated in a volatile environment under enormous constraints. It has been underfunded, under-equipped, and operated below 40% of its authorized personnel strength. Our police officers have valiantly shouldered responsibilities without the full logistical support that would accompany any mission sanctioned by the United Nations. Despite these challenges, and against all odds, the MSS has delivered results many thought were impossible. The presidential palace, once under siege from gangs, is today restored as the seat of government. The police headquarters and the police training center, once overrun by gangs, are now secure, with the academy resuming the training of new police officers over 700 of whom graduated a few months ago. Schools that have been shattered by violence have reopened with children back in class, learning and progressing. Roads once manned or blocked by gangs have now free-flowing traffic. Cases of kidnapping and extortion have reduced sharply. The airport and the seaport, once surrounded by gangs, are now abuzz with normal operations. Which begs the question, if so much could be achieved with limited resources and stretched personnel within just 15 months, what more could have been accomplished if the United Nations fraternity had truly acted together in solidarity with the people of Haiti?
And while if it has succeeded, the mission is coming to an end in a couple of weeks, and complaining about, the fact that US gave old vehicles, those who had pledged to support to put some money did not send them money. Of course, the initial plan was supposed to have 2,500. So there's some countries that had also said they were going to send in soldiers. So the soldiers were supposed to be 2,500. Only 900 and around 1,000 were the ones that were there, and Kenya led that delegation. And he was bemoaning the fact that Haiti mission, on one end, he's talking about Haiti mission as a big success. And I want us to get that. So, and of course, I was expecting probably to read the reaction. At this point, you will get the standing ovation for what they've done. I did not see that appreciation. Maybe I was expecting too much. But in such a diplomatic stage, if you make such a pitch like what we've done and we've done it, I think we needed to get that Kenya done well. And that is also an observation that maybe they did not take our word for all that. The other second issue of, apart as he says that, he was just complaining the other day about how we gave old vehicles and the challenges that we faced. Now, Haiti mission flopped. Number one, because PESA. Many countries did not fulfill their part of the bargain, of the part of the agreement. Number two, the second thing about Haiti, which we don't want to say here, is about the personnel. We did not send the personnel. I followed it, and I want to narrow it down to these three interpretations. I tend to realize from this United Nations General Assembly that Ruto projects locally here that are projected to Wanjiku here as cutting-edge solutions that are going to make sure we remove the slums, we create jobs, everyone has health. But behind the scene, some of them are just things that are being floated, not really pushing the national agenda, but just to get some global accolades. Because now you understand, when he went to the United Nations General Assembly, these are some of the things he was to pitch as the other countries to pick, and it's in response to something. So it's like mtu anataka some recognition globally. So he's forcing things here. While Yuko globally can get the hands, people can clap for him. But here, Wanjiku is not satisfied. Then the second issue is that there is this aspect of talking on behalf of the continent. What is the essence of being seen as pushing the continent's agenda? And the continent is not echoing that. I've been listening to meetings where African leaders even meet, even with this continent here. These discussions about carbon credits, United Nations General Assembly permanent seat, these discussions about climate financing, these people are not talking about it. It's only President Ruto who talks about it. And sometimes you even wonder, you may even sound like maybe he's being used by those European powers just for it to be spoken, for the sake of it being spoken, so that it be an agenda, but it doesn't get anywhere. Because yes, he's made that speech. Beyond that speech, what next? The continent does not echo. I was expecting that the African presidents who are there, who are vouching for Kenya, for our continent to have a permanent seat, they will be standing to clap and push that. And lastly, Haiti mission Ruto pushed. To me, it did not add any value to Kenya, as was really expected. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Kindly support us so that we can put up a house for Mary Yabura. Thank you.